Hello, Danny D. and DQ. Welcome back to the request quarter.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. This is the Danny D and DQ Untitled Sports Show. I am your host, DQ, along with my co-host over here, Danny D. How's it going, Dan?
Doing pretty good, DQ. I'm excited to get into our request quarters here.
Yes, this is the segment of the Danny D and DQ Untitled Sports Show that is known as the Request Quarter. Today, we got a request from our Facebook page. You hear that, ladies and gentlemen? Our Facebook page. That's right. The Danny D and DQ Untitled Sports Show has a Facebook page as well as a group. And not only do we accept requests on our YouTube videos here, we also accept requests on our Facebook page. So this request is coming from one of our followers. He goes by the name of Crispin Trubiano. Crispin Trubiano. Oh, I wonder if he's Italian. Crispin says, Danny D and DQ Untitled Sports Show. Great show, you guys. I love what you're doing here. Especially love when you show some love for my boy Aaron Rodgers. You guys have talked a lot about the players, but there also been a number of staff changes within the league this year. Which coaches or coordinators do you think will surprise their new teams this year? Do you think any particular staff changes or scheme changes are going to be powerful threats or total flops? Wow, that's a long and great question there, Crispin. What do you think about that, Dan?
I like that question a lot because he is right. We have been covering a lot about the players, and we haven't even really touched anything about coaches, not whether head coach, offensive coordinators, defensive coordinators, or anything of like. We haven't even really gotten into that kind of topic yet. So it was fun to really think about it, go back and see all the changes that have happened through the NFL coaching-wise, and it makes you really think. And that's what I loved about this. It's 3 questions in a row, DQ. Hat trick. That is a hat trick from our viewers. 3 great questions, and this happens to be Crispin's. And Crispin, great question, deserves great answers. DQ, do you want to take the lead, or do you want me to?
No, I'm going to let you go first, Dan.
All right. What I think is going to work out in the good side of a new coaching change, I have Anthony Lynn, the new head coach of the LA Chargers. He already walks into a great core coaching staff with the likes of his offensive coordinator, Ken Wisenhunt, who was once a head coach of the Arizona Cardinals, and his defensive coordinator, Gus Bradley, the ex-head coach of the Jacksonville Jaguars, and then also was a defensive coordinator down there in Seattle with the Legion of Boom. So when you already have 2 coordinators that have been head coaches in the NFL, folks, the way you become a head coach in the NFL is because you did very exceptionally well at your job, whether it being offensive coordinator or defensive coordinator. So having 2 previous head coaches at the helm for Anthony Lynn, that's already positive signs. The arrows are already looking up.
Oh, and look at that. And what was Anthony Lynn last year, Dan?
You already know, don't you, DQ? Anthony Lynn started off as the running back coach for the last 2 years in Buffalo, but after week 2, when they fired offensive coordinator Nathaniel Hackett, who stepped into that role? Anthony Lynn. The running back coach then became the offensive coordinator, and the last 2 years being the running back coach and then the offensive coordinator, his Buffalo Bills were ranked number 1 both years in rushing attack.
Yeah, baby.
So that already lets you know the kind of coach that Anthony Lynn is. And another thing I liked about Anthony Lynn is he has the respect of the players in the locker room, something you don't really find too often in coaches, especially new head coaches.
That's one thing that I remember hearing a lot about him. One of the reasons why I think he was chosen by the Pagulas to be the interim head coach after firing Rex Ryan at the end of last season is because of how much respect he had from players, not only the running backs or offensive players, but the entire team. Players on the defense that didn't even interact with him really, except for here and there, maybe in like meetings or something like that. But there's been quotes from multiple players saying that they had much respect for Coach Anthony Lynn. I think that's a solid pick there for someone who's going to do pretty decent. I'm actually going to go on the flip side of that, Dan. I'm going to go on who I think is going to be a total flop. And I'm only wording it a total flop because of the way the question was proposed. I don't think it's going to be a complete and total flop, but I don't think it's necessarily going to be an effective scheme change. Speaking of the Buffalo Bills, it's actually the new offensive and defensive coordinators for the Buffalo Bills. That's Leslie Frazier. He used to be the head coach for the Minnesota Vikings a few years back. He's our new defensive coordinator. And then Rick Dennison, who, I don't know if you know this, but he was actually the offensive coordinator back in Denver with Peyton Manning, Super Bowl 50, ring a bell, Dan?
Oh, I didn't even know that.
Yeah. So this is why I don't think it'll be a complete and total flop. But I think that Buffalo's going to go through some hard times this year. I don't think the offense is going to click right away, as much as it hurts me to say it, because I've been one of the biggest Tyrod Taylor supporters out there. I think he's going to really struggle this year in the new scheme, even though he actually has experience working with Rick Dennison, because before Rick Dennison got the offensive coordinator job in Denver, he was actually the Baltimore Ravens quarterback coach in Tyrod Taylor's first 4 years. Tyrod Taylor was actually drafted by the Baltimore Ravens, for those of you who don't know. He actually has a Super Bowl ring when the Ravens won Super Bowl back in 2012. Yeah, that's right, ladies and gentlemen. Tyrod Taylor has a Super Bowl ring. And then on the other side of it, the defense, too. I know that there's been a lot of noise coming out of the Buffalo Bills locker room saying that the players are really more comfortable with the new defensive scheme that the Buffalo Bills are incorporating versus Rex Ryan's very complicated 3-4 hybrid scheme that they were running, asking defensive ends to go play coverage out in the flats and all that. This is a more of a basic 4-3, put your hand in the ground, get the quarterback if you're a defensive end type scheme. It's going to be a 4-3 cover 2 scheme. But even though I think the Buffalo Bills will do better than they have the past 2 years under Rex Ryan as far as their defensive ranking goes, I still think that they're going to struggle and that you're going to see some big run games going up against them, especially when we go up against J.I.J.E., whatever the fuck his name is, down in Miami there. And thank God we're not facing the Pittsburgh Steelers again this year, because Le'Veon Bell single-handedly beating the Buffalo Bills, I think it could be just as very plausible in this new scheme. So I think it's a flop.
So, DQ, let me see if makes sense. Would you say that it's not necessarily the new coordinators, but the talent that they have is what is going to bring them down?
No, you know what? The Buffalo Bills have had so much talent for years, and that was the problem, was the coaching staffs and the coordinations. And I don't think that's going to be the case. I think the case here is going to be a culture change. And a culture change happens over time. And one of the things the Buffalo Bills have lacked is giving an opportune amount of time to head coaches, coordinators, general managers, quarterbacks, other skill positions. I think this is going to be different. I think that they actually will give Sean McDermott more of a chance than they gave Rex Ryan and X number amount of coaches since Marv Levy. But I think they're going to end up doing some things next year, such as getting rid of Tyrod Taylor. And for all we know, they could trade LaShawn McCoy. I mean, with this new general manager and this new coaching staff, it seems like anything is possible. So, no, I don't think it's either or, Dan, to answer your question. I don't think it's either or. I think it's a matter of it's going to take time. It's going to take time, and it's going to take patience, and the Buffalo Bills and their fans, me included, need to remain patient. Yes, it sounds absolutely ridiculous because it's been almost 20 years since we've seen the postseason, but just remain patient, and it'll happen. So I'm actually going to, I know I've been talking for a little bit here, and I don't want people to get sick of hearing my goddamn voice, but I'm going to keep going here, Dan. I'm going to say with who I think is going to go good, all right? And speaking of general managers, we got a new general manager change out in San Francisco. He goes by the name of John Lynch. Some of you might remember him if you've been watching football for the past 10, 15 years. He was actually big back in the 90s. He's been around for a long time. He used to be a safety playing for teams such as the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and the Denver Broncos. And now he's decided to take a front office position in the NFL. This is also kind of like a half-ass answer to your question, Mr. Trubiano, because here's the thing, is I think John Lynch is actually going to be a really good thing for the San Francisco 49ers franchise, but not this year. Not this year. Not right away. Again, just like I was saying to the Buffalo Bills fans out there, 49ers faithfuls, remain patient, because your new general manager will take you to great places, but it's going to take a little bit. Don't expect miracles from this man right away. Don't even expect success from the Kyle Shanahan regime, but just know that you're in good hands in John Lynch.
It's funny that you brought up John Lynch and the whole San Francisco position.
Why, you got some opinions about it?
I do, because where it came in with my flop, I went with the newly acquired head coach, of San Fran. That is Kyle Shanahan.
Speak of the devil and he shall appear.
Yes. Last year was the offensive coordinator for the Atlanta Falcons. Obviously, he did a great job down there. Helped that team go all the way over to the Super Bowl and had a great top 5 offense.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe they were the number 1 offense.
Yes, they were. And I'm not trying to take anything away from Kyle Shanahan here, but you need to think about what he is walking into. He's walking into a situation where your starting quarterback is Brian Hoyer.
Yeah, it's shambles.
You're walking into a situation where you have no depth at the wide receiver position to even help Brian Hoyer. Your best wide receiver you just added to your team, Pierre Garçon. Not that Pierre's bad, but when he's your number 1 and it's a fall off from that, it doesn't look too well. So they need help in the wide receiver, quarterback, some offensive linemen that don't even get me started on the defensive side of the ball. And like you said about John Lynch, even though I think John Lynch can also have a great career too as being the GM for San Francisco and could do good things for them, it's going to take time. And with the new acquired head coach and the newly acquired general manager, I don't, like we said in earlier shows, I don't even see San Fran winning more than 5 games this year. And I want you to think about this, DQ, because though he was a great offensive coordinator for the Atlanta Falcons, think about when his last job as a head coach. Do you remember? He was the Washington Redskins. And how did that work out for him, DQ? Not too damn good. Believe me, as a Cowboy fan, I loved it. I thought it was great. I wanted Kyle Shanahan to stay there for 20 more years. But likely the Redskins would want to, I don't know, maybe start winning sometime this century. So they had to move on from him.
He built some networking, though, because, look, there's potential talks about next year Kirk Cousins going out west.
See, that's why I'm going to say it's a flop because of this awesome question from Crispin Trubiano. Because Crispin wants to know about this year. And I say this year, they're going to fall flat on their face. Kyle Shanahan, John Lynch, and the whole 49er organization. But over time, yes, time, we've been saying it a lot in this episode, with time, they could get back to a playoff caliber type of team, but I don't even see that coming for at least another 3-4 years unless some big things happen.
I was just going to say 2020.
Yeah.
I could see it, 2020. It's funny that you're saying it, you're bringing up Crispin's question again because, thinking about my answers, I kind of just answered this half-assed, to be honest with you. I mean, he did ask about this year, and I was just like, yeah, they're going to suck this year, but no, it's good. And then I was like, nah, they're going to be all right this year, better than they were last year, but not good. I mean, so I apologize, Mr. Tribbiani. I mean, Mr. Trubiano, I really do for giving you half-ass answers here, but
I have this little relatable quote, too, that I wrote down for Kyle Shanahan. It's, he's been dealt a shit hand down in San Fran.
Been dealt a shit hand down in San Fran. I like that. That could be his new theme.
That could be his quote. You know how Bill Belichick says no days off? He'll have his own T-shirts and everything. Dealt a shit hand down in San Fran.
Kyle Shan dealt a shit hand down in San Fran. Say that 5 times fast. I dare you.
That's a tongue twister right there, DQ. So that pretty much wraps up where we were going with here. Great question again. Thank you, Crispin Trubiano. Thank everybody that's already had their own request quarters. If you like the attention and the publicity that we give you on our show, give us a comment. Keep coming with these great questions,
You
man.
want a shout out?
You want the shout out, and we shall serve you that shout out on a silver platter.
You want a shout out? Come to the Danny D and DQ Untitled Sports Show. See?
And if you haven't already, subscribe to our YouTube channel, the Danny D and DQ Untitled Sports Show. We also have a Facebook page and a Facebook group at the Danny D and DQ Untitled Sports Show. You can give that a like, and just like Crispin did, you can even leave a request quarter comment, and we will get to you.
Yeah. I just want to say one more thing before we wrap up here. I know that there's been some talk in the Danny D and DQ Untitled Sports Show community that the Untitled Sports Show is not a great name. I just got this one thing to say. Too bad. Me and my friend Danny D here, when we first talked about doing the show, we thought about some ideas of some segments that we could do, and then we thought to ourselves, what are we gonna call this show? What are we gonna call it? I don't know, Danny D. It seems pretty untitled right now. Ooh, that sounds like a good name. The Untitled Sports Show. I personally love it. I know that my friend Danny D over here is a fan of it, right, Dan?
Yes, I am. I thought we both were giddy like little girls on Christmas when we thought of the idea of naming this show the Danny D and DQ Untitled Sports Show. And I love it so much. That's why I say it in the beginning and at the end of every one of our shows.
So, this has been the Danny D and DQ Untitled Sports Show Request Quarter. And like my boy said, follow us on Facebook, subscribe to our YouTube channel, and this is DQ,
And I'm Danny D.
and we're out.